Hello. You are very welcome to this live. Thank you for joining. We thank the Lord that you are awake this early morning, and we give Him all the praise. We give Him all the glory, honor, and adoration unto your name, O Lord. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to be here yet once again. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for joining the live. So I will begin straight away. Our topic is breaking cycles, and yesterday we talked about breaking legal grounds, closing the doors that give lust power. Now, the whole of last week we concentrated on understanding the cycles and the fact that all these sexually immoral behavior are after effects of a deep-rooted cause. And we delved the whole week so much into the root cause of these after effects. And we carried out some exercises, and this week we are really concentrating now on the causes of those after effects. That is masturbation, lust, fornication, basically sexually immoral behavior that makes you feel filthy and unclean in the eyes of God. And if this is not for you, you may not understand what it means to want to detach from something, but you fail completely. So if this is for you, you'll enjoy it and you learn from it, and you'll actually carry out the exercises that I present to you to try and overcome what overpowers you, so that you can take back your authority and your power. As a human being, you have the ability to say yes, to say no. You have the will to choose life or death. So choose ye this day who you will serve. Will you serve the Lord, or will you serve what overpowers you? Because whoever you yield yourself to becomes your master. So if you yield yourself to the things that overpower you, that is what will become master over you. That's what takes your authority. So this is for those who are ready, willing to take a step to overcome these challenges, to get to the root cause of these challenges. And yesterday we talked about unhealed trauma. And if you did not attend yesterday's session, you will find the recorded YouTube the recorded video on YouTube. Same name, at Build Beyond You, just like it is on TikTok. Continuing with breaking legal grounds, closing doors that give lust power. We talked about the things that give lust power, the addictions that hold power. Your power are unhealed trauma. We really discussed that in depth. Find that video on YouTube. And we talked about dishonor, especially in family systems. And we talked about lawlessness, that is patterns of rebellion, instability, and chaos. And then we talked about shame, secrecy, and silence. Now, today we're dealing with dishonor. And I hope we're all ready for today. You're very welcome. Thank you once again for logging in. Now, what do I mean when I say dishonor? Does anyone understand what dishonor means? And it depends on which context you are drawing that definition from. Dishonor is not just disrespect, okay? If you have gone through experiences that have slowly conditioned you to accept treatments, that is one, environments and relationships that diminish your dignity, your voice, anything that silences your voice, and weaken your inner authority. Remember, I've just talked about taking back your authority and your power. So anything that diminishes that, your authority, your voice, and silences you, and makes you accept treatment that is unacceptable, that is dishonor. It can be dishonoring yourself or dishonoring somebody else. So if you do that to somebody else, you are dishonoring the other person. If you are dishonoring, if you're doing this, silencing somebody else's sound, voice, you're dishonoring them. Anyone who does the same to you, they are dishonoring you. If you accept treatment that is less of who you are, you're dishonoring yourself. Okay? And if you treat others in a way that you make them feel less of who they are, like you make them feel inferior, you are dishonoring them. So do you see how it works? And if you have associations or relationships that diminish your value, that kind of like make you feel less of who you are, like you have to force yourself to fit in or something like that. They don't actually value who you are, your opinion, your character, like accepting you for who you are, because we are all uniquely created in the image of God. We are all different. And if someone doesn't accept you or respect you, they are dishonoring you. They are demeaning you. That's the context from which I am drawing dishonor. And I want you to understand that dishonor can contribute greatly to silencing you and getting you to actually look for an escape route. You remember yesterday we talked about things that we look for just to cover up. Yeah? So, for me, dishonor showed up a long time ago. Like I said, some of these things are generational. And for some, it may not be generational. For some, it may be an acquired identity or an acquired trait or an acquired behavior. And if you can actually put a stop to it before it becomes a stronghold, that would be great. But if it's something that is already embedded in your bloodline, now that is another story, because then you have to go through a spiritual journey, a process to bring down the layers, the bricks that were actually built maybe generations ago, could be 600 years ago, and dishonor has been in your bloodline for so many generations. And if you are the one who is supposed to put a stop to it, that's a conversation for another day. So there are two reasons here. Either you acquire it yourself or it's generational. But we're going to look at practical steps of how to overcome the root cause of the symptoms. Because I mean to say that masturbation, lust, sexual immorality, any sexually immoral behavior is only a symptom, is only an effect. It's only something that is coming out, but there's a deep-rooted cause for it, and dishonor is one of them. So what gives me authority to speak about what I do speak about is the fact that I have experienced these things and I have overcome, I have accepted, I have acknowledged, and have become aware of the root cause, and I have walked the journey, the process of healing. It doesn't take a year or two. For me, it didn't take a very short time. It took a very long time because there were deep-rooted causes for this. So don't feel alone. I know you're there and you may be feeling alone right now, but dishonor, it appeared in patterns of how I allowed people to treat me weirdly, badly, and I was acceptable of every behavior. Like when you don't know who you are and you kind of like don't value who you are, and it may happen to you, it may not happen to you, but when you do not hold what you have or who you are valuable, because probably of that trauma, yeah, you will end up tolerating every behavior from anybody. People will treat you the way they want. You won't have set boundaries, inner boundaries and outward boundaries. So that you end up dishonoring yourself and even dishonoring other people. You've not been taught how to honor because you've not been honored. Yeah? So it kind of like teaches you how to treat other people the way people treat you. So the environments, the relationships, your background, your family, it contributes a lot. Yeah. So for me, it appeared in the homes that I lived in, the relationships I stayed in, the betrayals I endured, and the expectations that were placed on myself and that I placed on people, like trusting, kind of like being naive and not even being able to discern or thinking that everybody is nice. Yeah. And this did not match my worth. But when I say my worth, that is a journey that I had to go through to understand who I am. That's why I say you need to get to know who you are. When you do not know who you are, sometimes you think you do know who you are, right? But you need to get to the root of who you are. When you get to know your abilities, when you get to know what God placed in you, what differentiates you from everybody else, that unique sound that comes out of you. And by sound, I don't necessarily mean the sound, but that uniqueness in you, that strand, that distinctive sound that comes from you, there are things you're not going to be able to tolerate. You'll be able to draw the line and say, there's some things that don't come into my space. So this dishonoring yourself may not have occurred to you that it has been happening, but it has been happening so many times. Every time you have been settling for less, you have been dishonoring yourself, because that means you actually do not place any value on the beauty that God placed in you, on the virtues that God placed in you, on the traits that God placed in you. And if you are made in God's image, you are dishonoring God. As simple as that. So, growing up in environments where boundaries were not protected, where our values were not even affirmed, like no one ever affirmed the value in you that you now see in yourself. Kind of like reflect on what I am saying. Have your values been affirmed when you were a child, or have you only experienced this in your evaluation forms at work? If you fall in that category, there's a little dishonor that has kind of like made you feel less of who you are or inferior of yourself. And if your voice was not honored, like you're trying to speak and you're kind of like demeaned, like as if you're foolish when you try to speak on a table. And this happens a lot to Africans sometimes, because like sometimes told to shh, start talking. Maybe it also happens elsewhere, but sometimes the shh can be a bit too much, and it kind of like makes you feel inferior, less of who you are. If there was pain that was dismissed or minimized or ignored, and it actually now kind of like was kept in a box for you, that pain, you kept it in a box. You did not deal with it. And it wasn't dealt with either with the people who were guarding you as you were growing up, like your parents or your guardians. If there was pain that you experienced and maybe you tried to speak about it and it was minimized, it was ignored, it was dismissed, now that pain doesn't go away. So that's what we need to bring out in the light. Okay? And if your presence was ever taken for granted, if you are familiar with what I'm talking about, has your presence been ever taken for granted? Because this dishonor has become so familiar, you have kind of like normalized it. But I'm going to show you the difference as we go on in this conversation. Now, dishonor conditions you to stay silent when you need to speak. It conditions you to overgive even when you are empty. That's what dishonor does. You find yourself overgiving Even when your jar is empty, you don't even get time to replenish. Yeah? It conditions you to accept apologies from people, even when the behavior has not changed. You just keep saying, okay, it's okay, it's fine, even when it's not fine. You carry burdens that were never yours. Someone once told me, I see a suitcase in the spirit. I see a suitcase on your head. I said, which suitcase? Like burdens on your head. You carry burdens that you're not meant to carry. You remain in places that drain you emotionally, spiritually, mentally. You just find yourself, by the way, remaining in those places. And they could be physical environments. And you know it that they are draining you emotionally. You know it that they are draining you spiritually. You know it that they are draining you mentally. But you find yourself stuck in those places. Don't blame yourself. Don't condemn yourself. We are here to unpack everything. So this is just an introduction. Okay? So you find yourself taking responsibility for the comfort of others while abandoning yourself. That's what dishonor conditions you to. You internalize it knowingly, and then you ignore your needs, you minimize your pain, you shrink your identity. Your identity is who you are. You shrink. Esther, suitcase, yes, suitcase. You allow access to people who don't deserve you. This is what dishonor does. Now, I'm talking about when dishonor is there, these are the things that you're going to be seeing. The traits that you're going to be seeing. Dishonor allows you to ignore your needs, to minimize your pain. You even allow access to people who don't deserve to be in your spaces. And you know what they're doing? They're draining you spiritually. They're draining you mentally. They're draining you emotionally. You over-tolerate what you should not be tolerating. Instead of confronting that which you're tolerating, you're just tolerating it. Okay. You find yourself believing you have to earn through suffering. Like you have to struggle to earn. So it kind of like creates a gateway when you stop valuing yourself. The moment you stop valuing yourself, the door is wide open for dishonor. Apart from when it is generational, when it is imposed. When it is imposed, I'm going to take you through that conversation, just a little bit of when it is imposed on you. When it is out of your control completely. Now, this one I am talking when you're seeing with your eyes. Because now you're old enough to not to allow this to become like your daily cycles that are draining your strength. And what happens after? Lust, secrecy, silence, hidden behavior, masturbation. Because you're trying to, that's an escape that you're taking to overcome. So, dishonor weakens your discipline because you don't fight for what you believe in. It weakens your self-control because you have silenced your own inner authority. Let's talk about your identity, who you are. It weakens your identity because you do not see your self-worth. Like you doubt your own worth. It is an environment that you adapt to. And before you know it, it starts breaking you, piece by piece. But the good news is there's a solution to everything. Once you remember the 6 steps that I gave you yesterday is what we're going to go through again, but this time round, title the same, but the description is different, like the details. I don't know, what is dishonor to you guys? Dishonor is reducing your value, silencing your identity, and normalizing disrespect. The moment you start normalizing disrespect, you're done. Now, I want you to ask yourselves, after this conversation that we've just had, this introduction, how did dishonor creep into your life? Can you trace back where this dishonor came in, appeared in your life, apart from it being generational? Because for some of us, it is generational. But for those that have not experienced it generationally? Did it just come in through your childhood, like from maybe your aunties, your uncles, or maybe school, okay? Relationships, responsibilities, in your environments. Where was your worth not protected? Those are the things that we do here. We go back to listing down. So if you actually have a pen and a paper, that would be great. Where was your worth not protected? I want you to answer those questions in your private time. How did this dishonor contribute to cycles of masturbation, lust, like sexually immoral behaviors? How did it contribute? How did it bring about these cycles of addiction? When did you start dishonoring yourself? How did it start becoming familiar and normal? How did you start tolerating people treating you like that? When and how? Because it started breaking you slowly by slowly. When I realized that the cycle was not normal, that was when I drew the line. Are you ready to make a decision to draw the line? Because it's not normal. You have to be able to reclaim your inner authority. And the only way you start claiming your inner authority, I congratulate you. The first thing you have done, you're here this early morning. That's a very good step that you have taken. You've availed yourself to replenish. I call it replenishing because this is personal development. This is you loving yourself enough to say, let me learn, or let me listen into a conversation that's going to add value to me, or that's going to help me reflect on things that I have not done, things in my life that I have not paid attention to, just like you are benefiting from this. Now that I have given you a very beautiful background of how dishonor comes in and the meaning of it, let's go through the 6 steps. Yesterday we talked about acknowledging it. What do I mean when I say acknowledge it? Dishonor breaks spiritual order and invites disorder. Wherever there is dishonor, just know there's alignment that has been shaken. What do I mean? If you have been attuned to a lifestyle that honors God, honors yourself, honors your parents, honors the people around you, honors your bosses, like you basically honor people. It doesn't matter what level they are at. You respect and you honor people. So the opposite of that is dishonor. That means there's alignment that's shattered. If you acknowledge and become aware based on the brief history that I've just given you, or like the introduction, I call it history because for me it is now history. But if you look at that brief background that I have given you, the introduction, you can trace back where dishonor crept in, sit down and note. Because you start with acknowledging. That's the first step. Where has disorder crept in? Because disorder is the opposite of order. And as long as there's dishonor, then there's disorder. For if it's generational, it's even self-explanatory. That's where the generational bit comes in. If dishonor came into your life generationally, then there's a disorder in the bloodline. And you have to get to the root cause of that. But if it's acquired, an acquired attribute, behavior, trait, symptom, whatever you would name it, it's something that you need to write down and say, you know what, I am acknowledging where the disorder came in. Most of us are usually like unaware of how this came in. Maybe it came in through family wounds, maybe it came in through abuse, maybe it came in through culture, maybe it was ignorance. Most of the times we are ignorant. And every time we are ignorant, It is the devil's platform to play his game properly. Thank you for joining this live, because the fact that you are here, that means you are now willing to break out of ignorance. We are delivered through knowledge. And you cannot even use ignorance in court. I think those ones who know that about law, you know that. You can't use it. So we have to be knowledgeable about some of these things if we sit down and take time and, take note of where exactly did disorder creep into my life. Was it in my childhood? Was it in my family? Is it because I was ignorant? I'm sure you're reflecting. Is it a culture that I kind of allowed, I became comfortable with? Is it a tradition? Did it come in through abuse? Where did the disorder creep in? So after you have acknowledged it, that is step 1. Step 2 is define it and identify it. Now, in this step, this is where I've said dishonor violates divine order, okay? Which is disrespecting authority, structures, boundaries. Rebellion stems from dishonor, resentment, and that instability. Let me explain this. Allow me to give you a biblical example of dishonor. Noah. In the beginning of time, there was a man called Noah. He had children. He got drunk one day and he slept off naked. When he slept naked, unfortunately, I don't know if 2 of his children saw him, but one of his children saw him. And when Noah got to know that his child saw his nakedness, he cursed him. Now, that curse still lives on up to today. Did that child intend to look at his father? Maybe, maybe not. We're all not there. Maybe he looked at him and laughed. Maybe he was just going to cover him because the father was drunk. Unfortunately, he received a curse. Until today, that curse exists. Now, that is dishonor acquired generationally. Because you've seen the nakedness of your father. There's no difference between that and incest. So you have dishonored your father. That's just one example. I'm not going to go into the details. There's so many other examples, gruesome more than that one, where we have strongholds in our lives because of something that is in the bloodline. And only God can reveal to you the root cause of what you are experiencing. And when you trace back, you'll find that dishonor existed somewhere, somehow. And if it exists, it's a pattern. It has led to an authority saying that we have legal ground here, we have this territory belongs to us. There's dishonor in the bloodline. So you suffer with things you don't understand. Why am I going through these things? One of the reasons is dishonor. And it happened a long time ago, and you don't know. But how do you find out? This is a journey where you commit yourself and say yes to the process. But if you're not interested in going through the process, welcome to the generational thing going on to your children. When you start seeing things happening to your children, the same things that are happening to you, you start seeing your child addicted, another one, an alcoholic, another one, sexually immoral, another one. You start seeing every of your behavior in your children. That is when you wake up and be like, no, So it's up to you to say it ends with me. Like I said, it breeds rebellion, resentment, and instability. Instability could be spiritual, could be emotional, could be physical instability. So you need to be able to define it and identify it. Was it, now Noah's case was disrespecting authority. And another case, it could be disrespecting structures. Let's say you have a job and you have a boss and you continuously disrespect your bosses. That dishonor is going to catch up with you. It's going to catch up with you. It may seem like, can pass by right now, but wait. When you start looking for the reason as to why there's a particular area in your life that is pressing you and you don't understand how you can deal with it, but where did it come from? Just one small thing. You dishonored your boss at work. So it could be disrespect, like I've said, could be structures, it could be your parents, it could be anyone in authority. Violating boundaries. So define yours, identify yours, where is yours? That is if it's one of the root causes that you're experiencing. Yesterday we talked about unhealed trauma. If you did not connect with us yesterday, kindly go to my YouTube page and watch the video. The YouTube page is at Build Beyond You, the same as this one. You can watch the video for unhealed trauma, but this one is today we're talking about dishonor. So after you finish defining and identifying it, in the third step, you now want to create a framework of understanding. The framework of understanding is we need to go back and read and understand how dishonor has manifested, let's say, in your family, historically, scholarly, biblically. You need to understand different areas of the manifestation of this dishonor. But it's from the beginning of time, it's rebellion. It was rebellion in heaven. Satan dishonored God. That's where this vice originated from. So as long as there's anything that's breaking your alignment, whether it is you not submitting to authority, for example, if there are wives here and you do not submit to your husband, you do not submit to authority, you're dishonoring your husband. For example, if you have like someone who's your spiritual cover, like a father or a mother, and you dishonor them, that's also another alignment broken. So we have to pay attention to all the cracks. Where are the cracks? Where have you created a hole in the hedge? Where is the crack in the hedge? Because if you, for example, when I talk about the hedge, this is what I mean. For example, if you're a wife and you have a husband and you submit to your husband and you honor him, you have protection. Because marriage is a covenant between two people. So if you honor your husband, you have protection. And God is going to first look at that marriage. There's honor. Okay. Then you come and pray and fast and say, that one my daughter give. She honors her husband. Then let's go to other authority, maybe like a spiritual leader or authority at work, even our leaders in the country. Like you keep using your mouth to belittle or to demean or to talk about leaders. Those are people in authority, and there's nothing you're going to do about it. As long as they are elected as leaders, yours is to honor them. Because if you're given even half a day in that position, you may run away in seconds. So honor. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who it is. So when you sit down and you start talking about a spiritual leader, and it doesn't matter what they are doing, you're not the one who anointed and appointed them in that position of authority. Dishonoring people in positions of authority is what brings a crack in your hedge. The serpent will bite you because it has legal authority now to bite you. And you're doing its things. You're dishonoring. So respect for people in positions of authority, whether you're leaders in the country, in the government, at work, in the businesses where you work, in the environment. For example, you find the security guard or the cleaners or anybody, you just bypass, you dishonor them, move, or you talk badly. That man could just as well, especially when they are older, he could just as well make a statement which is going to backfire on you, like severely. And by the way, as I speak to you, I've had a taste of my own experiences of dishonoring. The repentance you have to go through. So, note, where have you dishonored? Where have you dishonored? Because that breaks the alignment. That brings a crack in the hedge. And dishonor in families causes curses, strife, breakdown, confusion. Are we reflecting? Are we reflecting? Say something. Type something. Okay, let's go to the fourth step. We have a few minutes. Okay, 3 more steps. Now the fourth step is the legal ground. Now, when I talk about legal ground, what gives these addictions legal ground? Like, I've worked so hard, I've tried to stop this addiction, I've tried to do this, I find myself doing this, I'm wrapped in my dreams, there's something that seems to overtake me. There's something that has a legal ground. That is its territory, and until that legal ground is taken back, it will still have authority over you. What has given lust the power over you? Where honor is broken, definitely lust takes over. It has power over you. Even when you don't want to do it, you do it. Paul says, I do things, I find myself doing this and this, and even when I try not to sin, I find myself sinning, because there's something that needs to be broken. There's a legality that's hovering that needs to be broken. Honor equals identity. Dishonor equals identity distortion. As long as there is honor, your identity is intact. As long as there is dishonor, there's an identity distortion. I want you to note that. And sexual sin often grows where honor was violated, or has been violated, or is violated. What do I mean when honor is violated? In cases of incest, abuse, manipulation, generational dishonor patterns. So what is the legal ground? In your case, what is the legal ground? What has given addictions, lust, power? You need to identify what the legal ground is. The fifth step is healing and restoration. When it comes to healing and restoration, this is where you need to acknowledge the dishonor. First of all, you go back to the first step, the second step, the third step, the fourth step. that is where healing starts coming. Even if it's unintentional, even if it's intentional, acknowledge it. And then realign. Realign with order. There are activities you can carry out to actually get back into alignment. Let's start with acknowledging and becoming aware of it. Listing all these things that we've talked about. These are all steps that you can take. And it takes time. You also have to pray. You also have to be in fellowship with other people who are going to pray with you, because there are some things that don't just go out individually, that require corporate prayer or fellowship. You need to fellowship with other people who are going to support you in this cause, because there are things that are going to bombard you. You will not even know where they are coming from when you are alone. So don't deal with these things in isolation. Otherwise, when you start dealing with this in isolation, get ready for war. Don't deal with these issues in isolation. Please, disclaimer, don't deal with these issues in isolation. There are communities like this one where we learn and where we go back and reflect. Okay? And where we come back and learn on a daily at 6 a.m. But don't deal with these things in isolation, because you won't be able to manage the backlash, especially when something has control over you. You don't know what it is. During the healing process, you will be able to realign back to your original self. You'll be able to pull down the bricks layer by layer. Okay? But it starts with acknowledging. Trust me, you cannot heal before you acknowledge. And last week, we really talked about forgiving yourself and forgiving the people who opened these doors in your life. Forgive yourself. Don't self-condemn. Don't cut yourself out. Please forgive yourself and forgive everybody who opened this door for you. It is for your own good. Don't do it for them. Do it for yourself, please. I beg you, do it for yourself. And then cultivate a culture of honoring in relationships, but also at the same time cultivate a culture of setting boundaries and knowing what to tolerate and what not to tolerate, because it starts with honoring yourself. If you can't honor yourself, then you won't be able to honor others. There are things you say no. There are things you allow and there are things you don't allow. That's healing and restoration, and it takes time to heal, okay? You can't identify the problem now and think you're going to heal tomorrow. No, that's not how it's going to happen, okay? The last step is step 6. I only have 4 minutes. I want us to carry out practical activities. I need you to write an honor statement. Write an honor statement. Make a declaration. Make a promise to yourself. I want it to come from your heart, so I'm not even going to tell you what to do. It could be related to restoring order. Say, I'm going to start journaling the activities that are going to be contributing to my healing and restoration. So this is what I am going to do. Maybe you call it restoring order. And then because you've already identified where the disorder is, it's easier for you to now write those things that you're doing, contributing to you restoring order. That's journaling, okay? And write a letter of release. Release yourself from what dishonors you, from what makes you dishonor others. Release yourself. Write that letter to yourself. You see, some of these things, you just can't think about them and just leave them there. You need to be a bit practical. You write a release letter to yourself and say, these are the things I'm going to do. I'm going to join fellowship. I'm going to start praying. I'm going to start, committing to that private time with God. I'm going to give God time so that I can get to the root cause, so that I can go through healing, so that I can know where the legal ground is, so that I can go through all these 6 steps. You cannot do this on your own. You're a human being, and we are insufficient, by the way. Whether we like it or not, we are insufficient. And then make sure that at least in a day, you carry out a daily practice of honor, or a daily honor practice. Say that I'm going to honor. I'm not going to sit in a taxi or in a train or in a bus, or I'm not going to get out of my apartment or the apartment building or my home or wherever and not greet. Just honor. Do it. Practice honor. Quit this thing of being on the phone all the time and ignoring everybody around you. Let's honor. If there's someone that you dishonored in the past that you can remember, it's time to put things in order. Tomorrow you come ready for another topic, another root cause of these addictions that we experience. Tomorrow we're dealing with lawlessness, rebellion, as a root cause of addictions. So let's carry out the exercises. Go to my page on YouTube and watch a repeat if you can. I have these summaries. I put them in the video. I display them so you can actually pause and then maybe write down and carry out the exercises. Do it for your own good. Just do it for your own good. Thank you so much for joining. God richly bless you. We command this morning, this is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. May this day be a very fruitful day for you, peaceful day for you. Bless someone out there, and may God also bless you. May you be blessed and favored. As you step out, walk in protection. We declare no accidents, no distractions, no disruptions. You're covered, you're protected in the name of Jesus. Thank you so much, guys, and thank you for honoring me by being here till the end. Have a very beautiful day. See you tomorrow at 6 a.m. Bye-bye.